American institutions, and 85% people said yes, and 15% said no. And should Muslims participate politically? And a huge 70% said yes, and a little over the balance, I guess, said no. I had a picture, even in the Air Force, we have a Muslim chaplain there. And the US Congress has opened with prayer by Muslim Imam also. What about Muslim women? Well, Islam acknowledges women's equality with men in many ways. Muslims believe that Adam and Eve were created from the same soul. Here I've had this talk with Jack Davis here, talk about some of the foundations about Islam and our view of the founding of mankind. When God created Adam, He also created Eve. But the difference between our belief and the Christian belief is that the Christians believe that Eve was created from the rib of man or something to that effect. But in Islam, there is nothing to that effect. Woman is not part of man, it's completely separate and so equal. We both have a part of God in us, which is the soul. Then the story of the fall of Adam and Eve, we have the story of the serpent, and according to, I believe, the Christian faith, I don't want to speak for them, but I think Eve was tempted. But the Islamic viewpoint is not to blame Eve, but that both were equally culpable. And this comes to the reason I talked about Jack Davis is that why does God allow bad things to happen, and what is the whole big scheme of things according to our understanding, or maybe my understanding, because we have a lot of Muslims over here, and in some of the finer details of some of these things there might be some minor differences that some other people have of understanding. When God created man from clay, God asked all the angels to bow, and everyone dutifully did, except for Iblis or Satan. And God asked him, "Did I tell you to bow?" And Satan said, "I am made from fire, he's made from clay. I am superior. Why should I bow to this man?" And God got upset and said, "Well, are you going to, you know better than I do?" And he went on to say that you do not know, I think, that this man will create a lot of problems for you. He will not be as dutiful as we are. And so God said, "So you think you know better than I do?" And Satan said, he may have part of you, but I'm afraid that there are problems with this creature that you have created. And God said, "Okay, let's see. I'm going to send this man on earth, and he or she will do good because he has part of me in him, as in the soul. And I give you full liberty to do whatever you want, to tempt him with money, with lust, with greed, whatever. But I tell you, man will rise up to the occasion." And so this story is told by modern day psychologists with the id factor, etc. But that's what is happening. That's what I tried to allude to regarding fasting, is that it's not that difficult to not eat all day. But it's difficult to avoid all the temptations, especially in this day and age, of not looking at a woman in a not proper fashion, not telling a white lie, but stretching the truth to make, like I'm in sales, to make a sale, to make a living, to cut off somebody at a red light, to say a four-letter word because somebody went in front of you and made a illegal U-turn. So what stops us from doing that? It's our good nature, which is our soul. Because if we didn't have the soul, this body of ours is not that important. And that's why I said one of the reasons we are supposed to dress modestly, because what we are judged on is our actions. And I attended the Monday dialogue between the Christians, and one of the questions asked was, what is your view of the hereafter? And in some ways, in this we are more closer to the Christians than the Jews, because we do believe in heaven and hell, and we have pretty bad pictures of hell, and pretty nice pictures of heaven. But what I've been told, some of these things by my parents, some of these things from the books, some of these, Umar Gibran and Brother Abdullah Jabri, who's the president of the Islamic Center, are here. Umar Gibran, who's sitting over here, has been giving lectures and khutbahs, which is lectures, and since for 20 plus years. He was barely a teenager, I think, when he started. And that we have two angels on our shoulders. On the right side, we have an angel that records the good deeds, and on the left side, we have an angel that records the not so good deeds. And when I heard, and they record everything, and this record will be presented on the day of judgment. And when I was told these things in the 60s, it's not that far off. People like my friends who disbelieve in God or have doubts would say, I mean, how could God keep track of this? All these angels could do this or stuff like that. And it would be just unthinkable, and it's just make-believe, it's a fairy tale, etc. This here is a new USB drive that did not work because of Windows, but it works. 128 megabytes on this thing. I mean, and so God probably has one hard disk for the whole world. So that's one of the differences between Christianity and Islam, is that we are responsible for our actions, and on the day of judgment we will be judged by our deeds, regardless of, like George mentioned, my dad, I'm fortunate, was a fairly learned and a good scholar and a good person. But that doesn't make any difference to me, and my kids who are born and raised over here, they have to answer for themselves. But there's a big obligation on parents to raise the children properly so that they will follow the commandments. In fact, we have the same 10 commandments that Moses had received, and if I get the time, I will read them and how they are enumerated in the Quran. I said I would not talk about this, but Care sent it to me, and I think there's no harm done. What is jihad? Jihad does not mean holy war. Literally, jihad means to strive, to struggle, and to exert an effort. It is, like I talked about, the first and there are 7 forms of jihad. I have it in writing, but I will just go on just the basic concepts. There are 7 different types of jihad. And the first jihad, which I know you are involved in also, is with this inner self, to this constant struggle that we have, this temptation of Satan and his ilk, which are around us, tempting us to do bad things. And that's what the Prophet, may peace be upon him, said is the big jihad. That is the big thing that we have to contend. And there are 6 others in between, and the final one is to defend the faith against aggression, which is jihad or war. But there are specific conditions, and I cannot declare jihad, nor can the president of the Islamic Center over here. And it is a central and broad Islamic concept that includes struggle against bad inclinations within oneself, struggle to improve the quality of life in society, struggle in the battlefield for self-defense, that is having a standing army, is basically for defending the faith or fighting against oppression or tyranny. Islam condemns violence. Chapter 5, verse 32 says, and I quote, "Whoever kills an innocent human being, it shall be as if he has killed all mankind. And whosoever saves a life, it shall be as if he had saved the lives of all mankind." I was given some quotes, and people talked to me also when I came to this, some of the meetings about some of the ayahs in the verses from the Quran. And it seems like if you just quote them, in which some criminals like Osama bin Laden do all the time, that Islam preaches violence. I haven't talked about the Prophet too much. I will just give some basics about Muhammad, may peace be upon him. Jesus preached for 3 years. He died when he was about 33, I believe. Prophet Muhammad preached for 23 years. He was 40 when he became a prophet, so he was an adult. There are 2 parts to the Prophet's preaching. The first part is the first 10 years, which were in Mecca, where he was born and raised. And the Muslim community was very, very small and constantly under attack by the people around them. And so much so that why the Prophet had to leave to Medina, that's known as a hijrah, to save his life, because plans were to take his life. The revelation came over this 23-year period. So that this early revelation, that is the Makkah revelation that was given when Muslims were hiding, we did not have a Muslim state. And there were specific wars or things that the people did to the Prophet, and there was scripture revealed for that time for those people. And that's the big difference, is that those scriptures and those verses are for the Muslims that are under attack. They number less than 100. It's not for all time, for all mankind, which is the message of Islam. The message of Islam is for all humanity, for all times, till the end days. And that message started to be revealed in the second part of the Prophet's prophethood, which was when he went to Medina. And those verses are the verses, the reason that you see so many Muslims here, and that's why you see so many bright, intelligent people still being Muslims, and so many Americans like Muhammad Ali and these basketball players and all that reaching out to Islam, because that is the beautiful message, and that is the core message of Islam. And so some of those, if you have those questions about some of those passages inciting to fighting, they are basically for defense and at that time. One of the things that I want to mention, I forget, is, and Rabbi Greenbaum mentioned this Monday also, is that there was a question asked about infidels and how to treat infidels. And it's unbelievable that so many wonderful Americans do not know that Islam has a special place for the people of the book. And who are the people of the book? They're the Christians and the Jews. So much so, I am blessed with 3 sons. And all 3 are eligible bachelors. They can marry a Jewish or a Christian gal if they want to, and it will be perfectly within our faith. What can be more personal? What can be a more act of loving nature and acceptance than being able to intermarry? And that's one of the reasons the faith did grow, both because of this nature. The people who are not of the book are the people who believe in multiple gods, like Hindus, Jews, etc. But it does not give us license to try to convert them, or we say revert them back to Islam. Because one of the fundamentals of Islam, which are not followed unfortunately by the so-called Islamic countries. I'm from Pakistan and we say we are from the Islamic Republic of Pakistan, but we are a secular country in my opinion, is that there is no compulsion in God, in religion. There's no compulsion. And religion is very personal. My wife is here. How often she prays, when she prays, it's her business. She tells me more to pray, but that's how women are. But we are responsible for our own actions. And when the Taliban took over, or we have the Saudi government, they have this department, it's a very wonderful name, Department of Vice and Virtue. That is the police that goes out looking for people that are not praying. I mean, why are so many Muslims coming here and not going to Saudi Arabia or Kuwait? It's because and I say this with all sincerity, and I gave you some of the information about the mosques, etc., and the growth is that there is more freedom to practice Islam here and do it the right way without having the government or some quote-unquote mullah telling you how to do it. And that's one of the important issues. I think I have covered this part. Okay. Since I have 5 minutes, I think I will read something which is appropriate, which is why interfaith. You already are kind of preaching to the choir, but it's good to, this is well written. I found the website today. He's an MD, but he seems to be a religious scholar too, who's involved in dialogue, and he said that despite the fact that the world has become a global village, sometimes followers of faith traditions live in small huts of their own, never opening their doors to venture outside to see how other people live or believe. Thus our apprehension of each other is sometimes a result of not knowing one another. Knowing each other is not only a social need, but a divine injunction. Just because a person has a skin color different than mine, was born in a land different from where I was born, or prays to the same God, but in a different manner or in a different language, he or she does not become less worthy of my love and respect for his life and views. We need to know and respect others' religious beliefs and cultures. I was here at the last session, and I don't think former President Schulman is here. I was sitting close to him, and he was just cringing with what the speaker was talking about, that there's only one way, and that's the way some of my friends believe, that's only Jesus. If you don't accept it, you are lost. So, I think the orthodoxy in Judaism in some ways believes that, and that I would not be telling you the truth if there's small orthodoxy in Islam that believes in that too. That unless you accept Muhammad as the prophet, accept, may peace be upon him, you will not be able to go to heaven. There is one criteria that they put, which is that you have to have the message delivered to you. If you don't hear the message, if you are in the Amazon, you never hear it, then the test is to believe in one God. Because God has said this in all the scriptures, is that if you use your mind and if you look, you realize that there was one person that created God. I will just try to finish this, George. In a world full of hostility, we must instill love and achieve mutual trust and respect. We Americans must tell the rest of the world that we do not like to import centuries old hatred into our fertile soil. It is not necessary for 85 different nationalities and 14 different religions which comprise the nation of the United States to completely melt down and lose their ethnic and religious identity. Thus, the concept of a melting pot must change to a salad bowl in which all the ingredients are encouraged to preserve and display their distinct individual tastes and flavors. Through the interfaith process, we have matured somewhat via programs like the Interfaith Cedar that is held in some communities. We've had Ramadan in our community over here with Christian brethren. Refurbishing homes for the poor, which I found on Monday that this temple and the Islamic Center is involved with building a house for Habitat for Humanity. It's going to cost about $80,000 and our combined communities are donating to it. And if you want to do something good and tangible after hearing tonight's lecture, is to make a check out for that project, which is a wonderful project helping needy family have a home. Interfaith Habitat for Humanity is a wonderful organization. In this way, we have brought together people from different faiths and ethnic backgrounds and hopefully help them to know each other in an attempt to please our common creator and create religious harmony, which is the hallmark of American life. I guess I have more to say in written, but I think the most important part is the communication and dialogue between you, who are the most important people, and I will try to answer questions. I do have some other people more learned than me from the Islamic Center, and I would be able to use them too.
You want to grab some on this side for me? Pass down your questions. Any others here? No?
I think some of you know there was a priest here that had a guitar and was a good singer. I think if I sang, or even my wife, we were both off key, everybody would leave. We do not encourage singing that much in our faith, but there is an aspect of it in Sufi Islam, and also there has been a tradition, and so I did bring a CD here, and so I just play one song just since I brought it here, George, if that's all right.
What's the timing on the song?
2 minutes? Not as long as my lecture. Thank you.
That's it? You're not doing an encore?
No, I think the I hope we have time besides the questions so I can read some of this stuff.
I'm going to start off. Can everybody hear me? It says on. Can you hear me now? Get the mic. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can use it. But,
Are you ready?
yeah, you can still use the mic, I think.
No, it doesn't work.
I think it works a little bit.
Does it help?
What about this mic here? George, I think this mic might work. Because we're trying to tape it too, hopefully it will come out good so we can replay it. It will be on cable access TV.
How's this? Everything all right now? I have read that Muhammad exhibited tolerance of other religions, but expelled or exterminated colonies of Jews who denied his message. Is this true?
Is this true? Like I said, in the first part, when Muhammad may peace be, let me backtrack. When Muhammad, may peace be upon him, got the first revelation, he told the first one to listen and become a Muslim was his wife. So the first Muslim was a woman. Then some of his relatives and people he knew became Muslims. Among those who became Muslims, some were Jews, some were Christians, some were the pagans of the day. As you know, the Jews have not accepted that the Messiah that has been talked about by God has come. And so some of the Jews at that time did not accept Muhammad, whereas some did become Muslims. There was, if you read the life of Muhammad, especially after he became a prophet, and I've done some of it, and in fact, one of the things that I failed to mention, especially as a Sunni Muslim, is that we just do not follow the Quran, but we follow the Sunnah. The Sunnah is the traditions and actions and deeds of the Prophet. And so we have an example of the Prophet, a living person, in how to eat, how to interact with neighbors, how to act in a house of worship of the Jews. But like George said, this is about understanding Muslims and creating understanding. The thing that I like to say is, which I learned from Rabbi Greenbaum 12 years ago, which is the golden age of Islam in Spain. I did not know about it, and I don't know enough about it even today. But during the Inquisition, during the Reformation, etc., Jews and Muslims were harassed the same way by the Christians of the time.